You're listening to TrawlCast.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode 13 of TrawlCast. My name is Sean Matthews.
And I'm Seth McClellan.
This week, we got a special guest. Seth, tell us a little bit about this guy.
So our guest today is an amazing longtime friend of both Sean and I. We've talked about him a lot on this podcast. He's a great musician who spent many years as the singer of the band Loki. He's an awesome father. He's an idea man. He's a hilarious storyteller and someone who's always been an important mentor and supporter to me in life and music, and I know to you, Sean, as well.
Absolutely.
He's also always coming up with these crazy tinfoil hat theories to predict the future. It's an honor to welcome Jon Taylor to the podcast. Welcome, JT.
Well, thank you, Seth. I didn't think you were going to try to make me cry right out of the
whole
gate,
point, man.
We
want to show all of our listeners that the people we bring on actually mean the world to us.
Oh, thanks.
You know, like Seth said, you definitely have a huge impact on both of our lives, musically and personally. So we had to have you on here. You have come up like 4 or 5 episodes of the podcast now. You've been somehow interjected in, so
yeah,
had to have you on.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's good to be on, and congratulations on the podcast. It's awesome, and congratulations on Trawl and everything you guys are doing. I'm just super proud of the work you guys are doing, and songs are sounding awesome, and you both come a very, very long way since when I first met you.
All right, so that's not even fair, man. You're gonna make us cry now.
Damn.
No,
yeah,
it's
thank
true.
You, man.
It's true, because Sean, you weren't that good.
I know. I was also young. You got to give me some.
You were young, yeah.
Puppy.
Well, so you guys are, I have a theory when it comes to musicians. There's really 2 types of musicians. It's very rare that you get the third, but there's 2 types of musicians out there. Number 1, talent musicians. Okay. Now this is going to sound like I'm blowing whatever smoke or patting myself in the back. I'm a talent musician. I was just born with it. And yeah, I had to work hard at it, but I just had it. I've been singing since I was 2 years old, came up in church choirs and chorus and all that stuff. I just could always sing. I just could always do it. And I always had that ear for music and being able to hear notes and hear harmonies and do all that stuff. So that's the first type of musician, is a talent musician. The second type of musician is a hard work musician. And both of you are hard work musicians in my book. And the best kind of musicians that I've ever met, hands down, are the hard work musicians, because those are the ones that actually earn it. The talent musicians are usually the dickheads. Those are usually the ones that they take it for granted. They take it for granted. And usually there's ego there. Not all of them, but there's ego there. There's just a lot. It's just they don't appreciate as much as the hard work musicians. And so that is 100% meant to be a compliment to both of you, because when I met Seth McClellan, which is pretty funny because we met on MySpace, so that really dates me here a little bit. It's like we used to play jacks behind the soda fountain, but MySpace, and he knew, of course, Adam Nichols from Loki, the most incredible drummer I've ever met, hands down.
Absolutely,
hands down. If anybody should have made it, it's him. And he's the third kind, by the way. He's both a hard work and a talent musician, which that is just.
Those are called unicorns.
That's a unicorn.
He seriously is a unicorn.
Yeah. He's a leprechaun riding a unicorn. Bareback. And so, but anyways, Seth knew Adam through the tattoo parlor, right? You were apprenticing to be a tattoo artist at the time, right?
I was, yeah. Yep. So I knew Adam a little bit, but he had never heard me play music. And obviously Sarah, who, we worked together. So we kind of met through that relationship. But Yeah.
And so and we had just, and I know I'm skipping ahead on the timeline, but we had just lost Lube, Mike Lubier, who was one of the founding members of Loki, the bassist, and Lube's been my best friend since end of junior high school. Was my backup goalie in high school. If hopefully he hears this later, because he hates the fact that he was my backup goalie. He always tried to take my spot. But he couldn't. He never could. But so me and Lube were best friends, and we played in a band called Crazy Eddie back in high school. And so we were all, we came up together playing music. And so when Lube left after 6 years in Loki, because we started in 2000, that was just a tremendous loss to the band. And he did it for the right reasons. He did it because he loved his wife. He wanted to start a family. He wanted to move back home to Winslow, where we grew up. But he had a persona like Flea. He was just crazy. Awesome stage presence, awesome off-stage presence. He was larger than life. He was a maniac. And I've said for years, if we would have made it, if we actually would have gotten signed and all our dreams came through back in 2002, 3, 4, he would have lasted probably 8 months. And then he absolutely would have died a horrendous death, either from overdose and doing something stupid, or just doing something stupid. He was just a maniac at the time. Yeah.
I remember him being, even off stage, just being absolutely larger than life.
Yes.
And he's one of the most boisterous people.
Yes.
He's always full of energy. He's always super happy. And I remember there was a few nights that somehow I got stuck with him drinking, and I did not win.
No, you never did win with Lubier, and there's a couple good stories that I'm sure we'll get into. However, so when we lost Lube, for all the right reasons, mad respect, he was really hard to even fathom replacing, and so, but we had already booked some summer shows, and so we had a headlining gig at the Pier in Old Orchard Beach, which back then that was the show to get in the summertime, and it was
opening weekend, I think.
Weekend headlining gig, and I think it was with Boom Slang, and I think Soundbender was the other band. So
maybe Hour Past. I think.
No, it was. They might have been Hour Past at that point. You're right. It was a great lineup, is the point. And so we didn't have much time. And I think we had maybe 3 or 4 weeks at that point, maybe. And we had put an ad out. And so Seth had responded on MySpace. And he came in. And I remember meeting this kid. And he was just so shy. And here I am going, okay, I'm going from Lube, who's just larger than life, to this shy guy. And I'm going, okay, all right, well, let's see how he does. And so we practiced, and that went well. He didn't miss a note, but he just was, frozen. And, he was just so shy. And I was like,
admittedly so, absolutely.
I was like, oh my God, this kid. But we didn't have time. And at that point, we had tried fucking around with a few folks, and it just didn't work out. And so we were like, okay, we need somebody. And so I was like, all right, let's put him through a little pledge program here and see how he does. And so we were like, okay, we've got, and I think at the time, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 2.5 weeks before the show, after
it was quick.
We had practiced once or twice. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. Here's 18 originals or 15 originals and 4 or 5 covers that we were going to do. And it was
it was about 20 songs.
It was 20 songs total. And it was learn these and let's see how you do. So his first gig was headlining at the end of the Pier at Old Orchard Beach with these other great bands. And he was just scared shitless. And I was just all right, we'll see how this goes. And
so basically what you're saying is you gave him a trial by fire.
it was a trial by fire for sure.
Yeah.
And
because I remember, because like I kept showing up, and it was, I was like 3 or 4 weeks in, and I was like, so am I in the band? And you're like, well, let's just keep practicing,
just see how the gig goes. Yeah,
just see how this goes. Yeah.
well, because there's practice, right? But then there's performance, and so we did the show, and he didn't miss one note. Now, one note all night, which was very different for us because God love Lube, great bassist, but he would really get after it with the booze and with some recreational stuff, and he would struggle sometimes on stage, and he'd forget how a song started, and just stuff like that. And he's a wonderful bassist, don't get me wrong, but it was loose. Live was loose for Lube. And so it was interesting to hear every song played perfectly. He looked at the neck of his guitar the entire time, and he was just sweating so bad, but he never missed a note. And after that night, I said, you know what? He's got everything that we can't teach. He's got everything we can't teach. He's got the hard work. He's got the work ethic. He's got the dedication. He wants this. He went home and did his homework. Homework is so important as a musician. You got to do your homework. Right. And I was like, you know what? We can teach him the rest. And now, hands down, top 5. Like from a performance standpoint, top 5 bassists I've ever seen, and I completely agree with that. I would hold him up against anybody out there. Anybody. He's an absolute crazy man on stage, and the stuff he does, and the acrobatics, and the crazy shit, and his little fiddle-iscumbard with his hand back and forth on the neck, and all of that shit. Not to mention his writing capabilities, and just the creativity and the slap and just everything that he can do. Oh man, it's so fun to watch him now. And I just, every time I watch him, I just sit there and I smile and I go, nailed to the floor. His feet were nailed to the floor. Nailed to the floor. He couldn't move. He was paralyzed in fear.
What's up, my friends? This is Vinny from Diana Drive, and you are listening to TrawlCast.
Everything is gone in your hometown. You're alone now. It's a ghost town. Everything is gone in your hometown. You're alone now. It's a ghost town.
So it's always fun to think about. I remember when, and for you, Sean, do you go by Bones anymore, or have you given up on that?
It comes and goes once in a while.
Comes and goes, because you weren't Sean for a long time. You were
no one really knew me as Sean for like, geez, I want to say like 10 years, give or take.
I think I finally realized your name one day, because I think Twitch called you Sean, and I was like, who are you talking about? And it was like Bones, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bones. But I remember when you asked me if I'd give you a vocal lesson. You remember that?
Yep, I do.
And we were at Twitch's house, and you were like, all right, I want to do this. And you had been practicing Beloved.
Time conscious now, you are a part of my sense of direction. Nothing seems fully lost. Had you leave that behind? I'm conscious now, you are a part of my sense of direction. I'm overwhelmed.
One of the Loki tracks. And so I was like, all right, well, let's start. Let's just see where you're at. And you came out, you started singing, and there were definitely some bright spots, but you were all over the place. As far as note control was concerned, you were all over the place. And I was just I agree. I was just like, okay, all right, well, that's a place to start. As good
He's
as
got
any.
a great personality.
And let's just keep doing it. Let's just keep. And so, you know, the same thing to you. I mean, just like seeing you perform, and you know, at the benefit that we did at Aura, you know, just God, just not only the quality of your voice and how hard you've clearly worked at getting it to a place where it's a really, really well-trained instrument now, and your range is, I'm like kind of mad about it a little bit, because I'm like, fuck you, man.
You know, that bugs me, man, because I love your range and your style, and I think that's when something back then I was trying too hard to do was stay in like one niche, you know, one little spot, and I didn't just let my voice do what my voice could do properly.
Right. Sure. You didn't let go yet. Yeah. You were holding on too tight, and so it's just super fun, and the fact that you guys are both in the same band now. And so on the rare occasion that I could go out and see you guys, to hear your vocals and to see your performance, I mean, you absolutely floored me at Aura. Just your stage presence and your movement. And I was like, shit, man, I got to get in shape. You know, like he's really bringing it.
Dude,
he's really
Sean's always all over the stage.
He is.
Man. Like,
it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun to watch. So you both are the definition in my mind of hard work musicians. You guys have both earned it over time.
Thank you, man. That means everything.
Well,
seriously.
It's true. I tell you guys if you suck, but you don't. You're both, you know, and it's just fun. And I'm sitting here like I can't believe that Christ has been 20 years. I mean, this is Loki's 20th year on the face of the earth. And, you know, we would always joke that, you know, I came up with the name Loki because I was in a psychology class at USM, University of Southern Maine. Me and Boyer went to school together. And he was in a really good band, Dome, at the time, which was pretty popular down in the Boston area.
That's right.
And and I didn't have a band at the time because when we graduated, Mike Lube went off to college in Chicago. So we had to break up. So with the 20th anniversary, so Boyer was in Dome, and I came up with Loki in a psychology class because it was methods of Loki. And I really liked that as a turn of phrase, methods of Loki, which is a psychology term. And it's a theory that I believe in wholeheartedly, where adolescent males from the ages of 13 to 17, 13 to 18, whatever it is, they go through this age of rebellion where they rebel against society, against their parents, against authority, basically. And they act out in ways of where they vandalize, they party, they experiment, whatever, and kind of go against the grain. And so I was like, okay, number one, that's 100% true. And number two, I really like that methods of Loki. So I sat on that name for probably 6 months to a year. And I just said, if I ever get another band going, I'm going to call it Methods of Loki. And then when Boyer and I got together, he says this isn't what happened, but it's totally what happened. I was at a party at this place called the Pool House, and it literally had an indoor pool inside, and there was like 300 people in there. And it was super fun because people would just get drunk and fall into the pool or get pushed in because there were so many people in there. And they'd always have live bands. And so, you know, it was Shooty's Groove and Rustic Overtones. That's where a lot of the guys from Sly Chi would come and play. And so it was just really, really fun. A lot of bands actually kind of formed out of that. Yeah. And they were, Tyler Stanley from Sly Chi was playing Riders on the Storm. And I was out of my mind. And this guy was totally ruining Riders on the Storm. It was absolutely just destroying it in a really, really bad way. And so I just kind of went up and I pulled the, you know, like the dance scene in Back to the Future where he's like, excuse me. And he just pushes the guy, you know, and then grabs the girl. I grabbed the microphone and I just started singing. And I sang the whole song and the place was packed. There was, you know, 200, 300 people in there. And Boyer saw me. And so he came up to me at the calf, you know, a day later, 2 days later, and said, "Hey man, that was really good. And you want to jam sometime." And so I went over to his dorm room and we started jamming, and kind of the rest was history.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then finally, once we started practicing together, like for real, I was like, I got the name, Methods of Loki. And we started kind of playing around with that. And I'm Nordic, I'm Scandinavian, so I started reading up on Loki, just as the Norse god of mischief, and reading some of the old, you know, in their world, kind of their Bible, right? The biblical text of the Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And he was just such an interesting character. And he was just so dynamic and so different. And he would do things for good and he would do things for bad. He would always do what served him best. But
right.
He was a catalyst. He was a catalyst for change, right, wrong, or indifferent. So I love that character. And then the drummer from Motley Crue, what's his name?
Tommy Lee
came out with Methods of Mayhem, and I was like, God damn it. Like, he took the Methods
like right
thing.
at that time.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck, no, I can't take Methods of, because if I do Methods of Loki, then everyone's going to be like, oh, Methods of Mayhem. No. So we just decided to be Loki, you know, and that was kind of it. But we always joked about Loki would always fuck with us. If you want to name your band after the Norse god of mischief, then you are opening yourself up to being fucked with royally by this Norse god of mischief. And he did, man. I mean,
dude, I sincerely believe that is true, because like there were so many unexplained things that happened to us.
Yep, so many unexplained things. I mean,
that like, yeah.
The truck opening on the highway, the back door of the truck opening on the highway. I think that was when Twitch was in the band Bones. And, you know, drums spilling out on the highway. I mean, just story after story. So the whole point of this, as we come back around, is that, you know, this was Loki 2020, right? And we were talking about doing a 20-year anniversary show and having it be a timeline, and let's get everybody back together. Let's kind of take it through from the beginning in 2000 and play all the albums and do this whole thing. And we were talking about doing it loosely in April of this year, of 2020. And then, of course, Loki's like, yeah, how about I just drop a pandemic on your asses and shut every single venue on the planet down. So there's absolutely no way you guys could do a show. And
I mean, I'd like to think it's a coincidence, but you never know. Just
based on so many things that have happened because of having that name. And we would always just go, well, it's Loki, you know, that's what happens. Just the crazy stuff that would happen. So anyways, it's still, the Loki curse is still alive and well. And I didn't even think of that. I didn't even remember it. And Boyer was the one who kind of brought it up to me. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. It's pretty funny. But yeah, so we started out in 2000, and it was Jonathan Boyer, a.k.a. Boyer, the curmudgeon. God love him. And again, Boyer and I went to USM together. And then I said, well, I know a bassist, because Lube had gone to a tech school in Chicago to do HVAC, and he was only a 1 year. So he had just moved. He was moving back, or just moved back to Portland. So I said, hey, man, I got a great bassist. And he's like, perfect. I got a great drummer, because Jeff Galan was his drummer in Dome and grew up with Boyer and kind of came up with Boyer. So it would just kind of all piece together really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And I remember when Boyer lived on Fessenden was really when we started getting moving. And the very first time that we really sat down to write was when he played Again. And that was the very, very first song that we wrote together.
I never thought or heard of this before. Be the way they nails way blind and weightless, forgot to pursue aspirations for your skin.
I mean, it came together quick. I mean, it was probably 20 minutes and that song was wrote. And we just looked at each other and we were like, I was just like, holy shit. And he was like, holy shit. We're like, that is an awesome song. And that came together really well.
It is.
And then from there, Affinity rather. And it just kind of came together really quickly. And it's pretty funny because one of my fraternity brothers, who at the time was just had lived on my floor in Hastings dorm at USM, a guy named Sean Major, we call him Keats, he and I had been writing some music. And so I had brought some of his tracks in and pulled him in as the rhythm guitarist. Unfortunately, at the time, he was a hot mess. And he just was in no place. And he was very, like, hindsight, he was very shy. He was not ready to play in a band. He was not ready. Like, playing live terrified him. And so, he literally hooked up with a girl from a sorority in order to get a guitar to come to practice. Like, I was like, well, that's a move. So he practiced a couple times with us, but he brought the song Incoming. And so Incoming was a song that Keats and I wrote together, and then we brought that to Loki, and we tried bringing a couple others, but Incoming ended up being the one that Boyer grabbed onto, and that was so it was again Finity and Incoming were the first three songs that we recorded our first EP up in Winslow, and kind of went from there. But very quickly it was just the group of four. We did the Born album down in Disneyland Recording Studios in Rochester, New Hampshire, and that was old school. That was on the 2-inch tape. That was like, we're in a studio. I forgot that you guys did it on tape. We did a 2-inch. We had reels, man. We did 2-inch tape, and it was a lot of fun. And we had no idea what we were doing, none at all. But it was a really, really fun experience, and that was actually the only, I guess, full-length, quote-unquote, full-length album that we ever did. Because after that, Wyman got a hold of us when he was at Big Sound Recording Studios, and he learned us real good that it's about the EPs. Don't blow your wad on a full LP, full album anymore, because things were changing. And he was right.
He was totally right, and he was ahead of the curve on that, because
very much.
I feel like many bands for the last 10, 15 years have kind of fought to catch up with that model.
Mm-hmm.
Of, less is more. Do your best songs, put out your best quality work, and do it more often than an album every 2 years,
right,
where people are going to kind of move on and kind of forget about what you did over that 2-year period.
Right, and have tracks lost. Lost in the mix, and then look what's happened now. Now it's just down to the single. Now it's just, people are just buying the individual songs now, which is frustrating for me, because there used to be such a flow, the order of songs, the story that those songs together told, was definitely something that I loved about the albums that I grew up with. And so
absolutely,
we always struggled with that EP a little bit, but it was also more affordable too, because we were playing shitty ass gigs, making $100, $150, $50, no money.
It's so hard to do on that budget. And I know that. So Born was like 12 or so tracks. I think it was. And then Firelight was almost a full length record. It was like maybe 7 or 8.
We cheated. Yeah, it was an EP, and then we threw in an acoustic reunion, which was a one take done kind of thing, and then we remixed Beloved from Born. So we didn't even re-record that. We just remixed it. So we just kind of cheated is what we did to make it a little bit longer.
That's okay.
And,
I mean, I thought Reunion, just that stripped down version of it was great, because it's like you really get the essence of that song, and you can hear what the guitar is doing, and you can hear your vocal inflection. better than sometimes when you've got distorted guitars. And
Right.
so I think it's cool to do that acoustic song at the end of a record. I've always loved that.
Well, it kind of opened us up a little bit too, because up until that point, we never played acoustic. And a lot of people gravitated to that song, which in a way was frustrating, because I was like, God damn it, what about all this? Like, we worked so hard on this other shit. This was just like a one take, because Wyman's like, I got 2 hours left. What do you want to do? And so we were like, all right, let's plug in and let's just do Reunion real quick, and just strip it down. And then, after that, we started doing some acoustic shows, which was a lot of fun. We used to play Bingas Wingas and different places, and people really loved those shows. And, to this day, I have always wanted to do like a double disc acoustic, kind of a Loki unplugged, because I always find that it's a testament of good music if you can do that. If you can strip it down to its base and it still kind of stands up. You know what I mean?
It's true. It really is. Yeah.
Well, and I remember Firelight was an interesting time, because that was when Twitch was in the band, of course, and that was when Bones, you and I were hanging out a lot in the band, because Bones, you were a tremendous help to us. I mean, you were. You were a part of the band. I hate the terms roadie, group, whatever, but you would come and just be a tremendous help on load in and load out, and you'd help with merch. You'd do anything. You'd do absolutely anything that we needed on the off stage stuff.
Back then, like, I was trying to get out of that high school phase of music, because I wasn't even 21 yet. Like, when you guys kind of stole me into the world of music, like, you guys were sneaking me into shows.
I remember that.
20 years old.
I remember that.
The Bitter End. You guys snuck me into a Halloween show. I was like, geez, 3 months from being 21, and you're like, yeah, you'll be fine. And then you had the owner come over and keep feeding me shots all night. Hammered. But, back then I was still trying to get out of that phase of, like, high school bands. When you're in high school and you're in a band, you're going to take on the world. You're going to be the next Motley Crue. And I didn't really learn that you got to put in some, you got to eat the dirt. You have to do your due diligence before you make forward progression.
Sure.
So basically, I kind of took a back seat to try to do that. And I think I learned more being essentially your unofficial hidden fifth member.
Right.
Because I got to be there. Like, I remember jamming at Lube and Boyer's landscaping garage, like the gasoline.
The smell of diesel in the air. It's really good.
We were high as hell, just on gas fumes.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd sit there and, you guys would be writing music, and then you'd look at me and you're like, what do you think of this? And it's like, I think your verse needs like 2 more measures.
Sure.
And you're like, huh. And then you'd go back and you're like, he's right. We need to add a little bit more. And then, like, you guys kind of basically used me as your litmus test to be like, what is this? How does this make you feel? And it's like, that's good. Yeah, no, that's, there's not much you could do, to make it any better. It's right on the point.
Cool.
And then I got to beat up Twitch a few times in the shop there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what?
Cannot be. I can't stand to realize only some of us are trying. Cannot be. I can't stand to realize only some of us, yeah.
God love him. And I remember when we were first recording Firelight, we were in the studio, and he was going through some shit. His mom had been diagnosed with cancer, And
I mean, that was also about the time that him and I kind of had a small falling out. Like, actually, it was a little bit before that. And I think that was something that was a little bit of a catalyst in that too. Is, I mean, him and I got into it pretty viciously towards each other, and then you know, we separated. Me and Kara moved out of the place that we were living with him, and then, you know, he kind of disappeared. And I mean, I kept on the, you know, the Loki train. I would see stuff and I'd do what I could, but I tried to stay away from him as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, and Twitch, you know, Twitch was as a member of the band, Twitch was excellent at the promoting. He was excellent at the persona that he portrayed. He was a lot of fun to watch. And I know, you know, technically he had a few things that he struggled with, but he was all heart, man, and he really, really loved it. Yeah, and you know, it was a lot of fun doing that album, but he was going through some serious shit when we recorded that album. I mean, it was just kind of a double whammy for him. I was like, oh my God, you know, but he really poured himself into the music. And it was funny because Loki, we had so many drummers. I mean, you know, we had Jeff, we had Todd from Beef Curtains, we had, you know, Rod, we had, you know, Twitch. We joked at one point that we were like Spinal Tap, except the drummers wouldn't die. Oh wow! Yeah, we just go through. It was the vocalist was the same, the bassist was the same, the guitarist was the same.
Right.
We would just swap through all these freaking drummers. It's like, God, man, why can't
Dougie Wood?
Dougie Wood,
Yeah,
God love Dougie Wood from Rotors to Rust, yeah, and Boomslang, Dougie, love that guy, you know, and every one of them brought their own flavor and brought their own style, but you know, I would say, not to discount any of them because they're all fantastic, but you know, definitely Jeff Galan, because he was the first, and it was just an excellent drummer, you know, and Adam Nichols. I mean, I remember first time I saw Adam play when he was in New Sun Rising. We played together. I think it was at the Ale House. Was the first time I saw him play. Rest in peace, Ale House. I think Loki single-handedly closed more bars and clubs down in Portland than any other show. You know, if we played at a club, it was the kiss of death. They had 1 to 2 years, and that was it. They were going to close down. But yeah, I played at the Ale House, and he was just unbelievable. And the band was great too, but he was the shining star of that band, and I was just like, want to play with him, like just unbelievable, and so humble. You know what I mean? Just so humble and so grounded. Yeah,
and he still is, man.
And he still is. And so it was really, really. We were so lucky to get Seth MacLellan, and we were so lucky to get Adam Nichols. And once that became Loki, it was unbelievable. I mean, the songs would write themselves. It was just really a lot of fun.
Told to fight for wrong or right. You've controlled me. With foresight. Someone stop me, go this way. Believe all what you say. I can't bear your right, my break. Someone stop me.
You know, I had done all of the promoting and all of the, you know, merchandise and organizing and all that stuff. And when Seth came in and I just saw his artistic abilities, and he was the one that was like, guys, we really got to get in on this MySpace thing, and this Facebook thing's coming up big. And, you know, he was really, really good at just like getting us out there from a promotion standpoint. And I really saw something in him. And I was like, okay, here's my exit strategy when it comes to all the stuff that I am good at, but I don't necessarily like doing. There's that upward affliction. And so, he just started running with it, train him up in the ways of the Force. And he just took it to such a level beyond. It was so cool. And the comedy. And then, of course, Sarah, Adam's wife, Sarah, coming in and being our artist and, really creating Loki as a character and as a logo and as an image. And
she's so good.
She's another.
She's one of my favorite artists. I mean, she's so incredibly good. And
I mean, Dark Alice is her pen name or her artist name, but she just would make these albums. Just this art, I just couldn't even believe we got to use. It was really just an awesome team. Kind of all the way around. We had a lot of good years and we made a lot of good music. It was a lot of fun. And so,
yeah, man.
And then I got out in 2012 and I would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for Seth, because of how much he had done to step up and really take things on. And my daughter had decided to move to Maine, and something that I'd been wanting for a long time. She was 12 at the time. And I remember we were at Loki practice when I got the call from my daughter saying she wanted to move up. And I told the guy, just walked back in with a stunned look on my face. I was like, guys, I just got the phone call that I've been waiting for a long time. And we had just raised a bucket of money to go back in and record
That's right.
Ebb and Flow. And I said, let's do this album. We work too hard, and then I'll support the album. And if we hit, we hit. If we don't hit, I'm out.
I remember that. I remember that being really tough because, I feel like of all of the things that I've had the chance to be a part of, all the albums and projects, Ebb and Flow just had this friggin' special magic that just came together. And I felt like musically, all of us were probably, at our best, definitely at the time, for sure. But, that EP for me, was one of the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
I kept believing while you were seething, but I had to handle what to slowly lie awake with news to take. I am my one, I am my nose. It's never was don't wait up, never was true.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. I feel the same, and I just really think that, when Wyman was in his new space at Halo, everything was just clicking. Really, really proud of that, for sure. And we got some great radio play. I mean, just, especially with TOS, God love those guys up at TOS. May they rest in peace. Not the people; they're all still alive, I'm sure. But the
station's still going. But
people are like, wait, what?
They're like, wait, what happened to TOS? They're all Googling.
It's not the same than it was in the old regime,
right?
When it was, Kennedy and Chris Rush and Steve Smith.
That's
and
the way
all those guys.
that radio has gone, though. It's definitely changed, and terrestrial radio has taken such a hit. So
that's true.
Fortunately, that's part of the evolution of that.
There's no
media.
There's no doubt about it, And so I got done in 2012, and then I grew up, quote unquote, and worked and did the career and did all that stuff, but I missed it terribly. And it's funny because people are like, "Oh, do you miss it?" And I'd always say the same thing. I'd say, I miss 1 out of every 10 shows.
Yeah,
because the other 9 shows are bullshit.
Let's be honest here.
I miss recording. I miss writing, and I miss the guy.
Yeah.
I miss the guys. I miss all that because it was such an incredible escape and release for me in so many ways. But there was a lot of bullshit that went with it too. It's really hard to do something for so long and operate under the weight of the fact that so many people don't give a fuck, right? About what you're doing, and and it means so much to you, and it's your dream, and and that's true of any dream. I have learned anything that you want to do is so many people don't give a fuck about what it is you're doing, and they doubt you, and they say the things that kind of tear a little bit at you. And honestly, I let it get to me. I did. And I was just like, ugh, nobody cares about this. Why do I care? Nobody cares about original hard rock anymore. And, and that, looking back, hindsight, that definitely was weighing on me a lot at the time. Yeah. For sure. But God, after a while, it's like a breakup, you don't think about that stuff. You just think about all the good times. Right. And so I think about all that, and I just was dying to get back out there. And so I started a movie soundtrack cover band called Cinematic, which Seth MacLellan is also a part of. And it's a 10-piece super group, and we cover different movies, and that's been a blast. And, we did... what was it? Well, we did the movie The Commitments, and then from there we did the Quentin Tarantino set, where we got another show October 26th at Portland House of Music, if there is a Portland House of Music. If that all works out, if there is an October 26th, then we'll do that again. But I was really jonesing to do something original again, and I had mentioned Sean Manger, Keats, right? He had been in Loki for like a minute, it's just a hot minute. And I wouldn't even say he was in. He was like trying out, really, as he had done a couple practices, and he brought the song Incoming in. And so, but just an incredibly talented, just kind of savant, like almost like a Rain Man. Like he just was like almost on the spectrum. And I don't mean that negative, but he just was so skilled at a guitar. But then just in other ways in his life, he just struggled. He didn't have the confidence. And so we wrote 3 songs in 1998 in Third Hastings dorm at USM. And we'd always have such a blast. And he was really the guy that got me out of my shell and gave me the confidence as a songwriter and as a singer to really do something. And I look back and I go, man, I never would have been able to do what I did in Loki if it wouldn't have been for him and for my other buddy Pete Safronis. And we just did acoustic stuff because that's all we had. We just had acoustic guitars. And so so I've been singing these goddamn songs in my head for 20 years, and I was just sick of it. And so one day I called him up, and this is probably like Seth, maybe 2 years ago now.
It's got to be going, about 2 years ago. Yeah.
And I just said, Keats, I'm so sick of it, man. I can't keep singing this song, April Song, in my head. Which April Song, in my mind, arguably is the best song I've ever wrote, or one of the best. And maybe it was because it was one of the first, but. Just so proud of that song. And so I said, man, I got to get this out of my head. And of course, what do you do with a song, Bones, when you've had 20 years to work on it before you record it, So it's just like, it's this huge epic thing. Right. And so he said, let's do it. And I said, well, I got a bassist, Seth MacLellan, and I got a drummer, Adam Nichols. And oh, by the way, Adam's a recording engineer now, and he's really getting into it, and it's his passion. And so I called up Adam and I said, hey man, have you want to do an acoustic thing? And he was like, I don't have anything acoustic yet. Yes, please. Let's do this. And I was like, cool. And could you maybe lend us your drums too? And he's like, of course. And so
he's like, he is.
It came together really, really quickly. Keats was very intimidated because he had been a fan of Loki for many, many years. And every time we played down in Haverhill, because that's where he's from, he'd always come out and bring his friends. And, so he always had kind of come along watching Seth and Adam and just knowing how absolutely sick they are. And so he was super intimidated, but, because of how humble they are and how easygoing, it was just really, really easy. And not only I was just planning on recording 3 songs. That was it. I just wanted to get these 3 songs out of my head
Yeah.
April Song, It's Okay Now, and The Moat. And then just go there. I did it. And I'm done. But he started bringing new stuff. And next thing you know, we're up to, I think, if you counted them all, between the ones that Keats and I are working on and the stuff that we've done with Seth and Adam, it's almost 20 songs now. And so
that's crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I was nervous, fellas. I honestly didn't think that I still had it. I didn't think that I could still write. I didn't think I could put stuff to music. I thought I hadn't done it since 2012. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know if I still can do this. And it just the same thing. It just started flowing, and songs started writing themselves again.
Yeah.
And, 20 minutes, and songs were basically, the structure was there, and just a lot of fun. So we so we're called Post Hastings because it all started in Hastings dorm at USM, and thought that would be kind of fun. My buddy Fish came up with the Post Hastings. I was just thinking Third Hastings, but he's like, no, dude, it's 20 years after Third Hastings. Like, it's Post Hastings. Oh no, that's kind of,
it's past tense. You got to go past.
You got to go past tense. So it's really fun because it's come full circle for me. Where the guy that I first started writing music with, that first got me out of my shell, who wrote a Loki song, Incoming, and who just has had buckets and buckets of potential for 20 years and has just never been able to have it see the light of day, is finally getting an album with just the very best musicians behind him, in Seth and Adam, and just a really fun project. And Adam's learning, and he's continues to get better. He's an incredible producer, like just unbelievable.
He is, man. I'm so proud of Adam. He's like, honed his skills so much, and to see him and his, not only the technical side of production and learning the technical aspects of that, but just like getting better as a producer.
Yeah.
And like, it's so amazing to see. I'm just so proud of Adam.
He's the real deal.
He is.
That's funny because I remember, like, Devil's Night Out, my other band.
Right.
We've only recorded with Adam, and every time we go in to record with him, he's got new toys. He's got new things. He has new techniques and tricks and stuff he wants to try out. And it's like, yes, let's try that. We've done, so much work with him, and I love going in to work with him because he takes that energy that he gets when he goes into Halo or wherever, he decides to record. He takes little bits and pieces from there and the energy from that, and he brings it to his, very small, very cozy recording studio. And then he makes you work, and he makes you feel like you're not only working, but you're working properly.
Right. Yeah.
So that's, huge.
Well, it's funny when I walked in for my first vocal day with him, because we had only just kind of practiced, as a group a few times. Right. And I walked in and I said, okay, Adam, I said, today you're not my drummer. Today you're my producer. I said, produce me. Like, I was like, tell me, just do, what that means.
Tell me this shit's sweet.
Push back.
Work my ass.
Push me. Produce me. And he got this big shit-eating grin on his face. Like, he'd been waiting for me to say that to him for all these years, that I've been trying to control everything. And he was just like, okay. And he did. And he worked me out, man. And
he will work you, man.
Yeah,
he really will.
Yeah. And because he knows me, he's just able to really, I was like, I was thinking about a little here. And he's like, nope, it's too much. Keep it simple. Like, da-da-da-da. Oh,
and there's sometimes you'll sit there and just be like, you know what, that didn't, sprinkle my jimmies. Let's, try something else.
Sure.
Like, he'll just straight up tell you that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Exactly. And you need that. And that's what Wyman's so good at. It's funny because Wyman's got a psychology degree, and we would always kind of tease him about that. Like, oh geez, another artist who, never used their degree. But then I realized, oh no, he uses
The whole
Oh,
time.
he uses his
Yeah,
degree
absolutely.
every single day, because he always knew just how to push you until you were about to hurt your voice. You know, he always knew when you were done. Get out of there, you're done. And I'm like, no, I think I get out of there, you're done. I need you fresh for tomorrow. You know, he just always knew exactly how to ring you out. And recently, so the first single that we're releasing is April's song. So this is a song, again, we wrote in 1998. And it's funny because we wrote it on a Saturday. We were all partying. And it was one of these songs where it just kind of wrote itself super, super quick. My buddy, Pete Safronis, who's an incredible writer, and we all graduated with media studies degrees. His was in writing. He had won this writing contest, and I'm reading this poem he had framed that he won this contest. And there was this amazing paragraph, and I was like, dude, that would be the sickest chorus for a song. It's so good. And then Keith started playing this little ditty, and before you know it, the song was written in 20 minutes or so. And there was this really, really drunk girl named April who was in the room, and it was her birthday, and she's like, I want you guys to rap me a song. And we're like, we just did. We just wrote a song. Well, that's your song. We'll call it April's song. And she's like, yay, I got a song. But it's so funny because it's a really heavy song. And, you hear it now, and you hear it with everything that's going on in the world. And it was never April's song, apostrophe S. It was always just April's song. And you think about what just happened with everybody this past April, and then you listen to the song and you're like, holy shit. It's so funny because I know what's going to happen if anybody listens to this fucking thing. People are going to be like, oh, he wrote it about this. And I'm sitting here just smiling going, no, we just named it after a drunk chick in 1998 because she just happened to be in the room when we wrote the song. That's
being annoying as hell.
Right. That's what I love about music. I absolutely love it. So we are going to be releasing that here hopefully by August 1st. And it's one of these things where, we're not trying to be this big band. We're not trying to go out and, do a tour or any of that crap. I don't even know if we're even going to ever play live, but one of my friends and one of my wife's friends who she grew up with, Nicole, had Nicole Roberts. She very tragically a couple of years ago was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at the age of 38, 37. And she's the youngest person who has this form in this advanced stage that they really know of. So it's tragic. Actually, she found it when she was breastfeeding her first son. And so she's got little Cole, she's got her husband, JR, and they both worked at restaurants downtown Portland. He manages a couple places, and she was the bar manager at Boone's. And so when COVID hit, we were going to do a cinematic show to raise money for her April 11th. Well, of course, that got canceled. And then everything shut down, and they worked in restaurants and bars. So guess what? They both lost their jobs, too, on top of everything.
Right.
And I was like, oh, God damn it. We have to do something. And so as I was talking about, as we were working on this, I was like, you know what? Let's get this recorded. Let's get it out there. Let's charge a buck a download, and 100% of the proceeds are going to go to that little boy, are going to go to Cole. And, because it's a terminal situation, and she's done an incredible job of fighting this thing. Her attitude's insanely positive. She's unbelievable, but they need help and they need support. And so I just said, this is what I want to do with my music. I want to put it out there, and if people like it, great. If they want to buy it, even better, because 100% of the proceeds are going to go to that family. So that's something that's going to be on Bandcamp, again, post Hastings, and it should be ready August 1st. And I think what we're going to do is just kind of release, one song at a time. Just take it in bites and just throw it out there and kind of see if we can do some good with some really, really old music. That's but some new stuff too. You know what I mean? Some stuff that we've been writing recently.
Which is funny. I'm so proud to be part of this, and you know, to be able to play music with you again at a greater capacity, and to write songs with you again, and then to work with Adam again, and Keats, who I had never worked with before, but he's just an amazing talent. And he's just, like you said, you know, he's got this thing about him where I don't even know if, like, because he's got all these odd tunings and ways about what he does that, like, I don't even know if he always understands exactly what he's doing from a technical perspective, but he doesn't. He's just a genius player. Like, he's so good.
I'll save you the mystery. He doesn't know. It just sounds good. He's one of these guys. It's like, you know, it's like Hendrix just picking up a guitar and playing it upside down because he's left-handed. You know,
that's all that matters. Is like, if it sounds good, it really doesn't matter what technically is happening.
Exactly.
And so I knew when we started this, because, you know, JT and I have this history of, like, he'll ask me, he'll be like, "Hey, you want to help me for 10 minutes with something, or you want to come over on a Saturday and it'll take like half an hour,
not a big deal,
or whatever." Or, you know, it's like, "Hey, we got these 3 songs that we wrote 20 years ago. Let's just, you know, just hammer them out. It'll be, you know, it'll take like a month or 2, and then, like, we have 20 songs, and we started that 2 years ago, you know." So, but I know this, like, I know this, and you know, just like, I'm along for the ride, and that's what's, I think, kind of beautiful about our friendship, is just like, I'm one of those guys that, like, I love being along for the ride, and we always have a blast doing it. I know that it's not going to go as exactly as planned, because it never does.
It never does.
That's the fun part.
It never does. I always stick him into the sidecar that's like barely connected to the motorcycle, and then we
hand him a helmet.
We put on the bomber helmet and the goggles, and we start flying down the road. And he's the one after 10 minutes that's just covered in bugs and mud and shit. And he's just riding along, man. He's the best. He's the best sidekick. He's so patient with me. He really, really is. But, you know,
Seth has the patience of a saint. Like,
it's unreal.
Having to deal with, you know, me and Gary and Tom at one point, and now Justin. Like, he definitely has the patience of a saint.
He does, but there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, Sean. And I can guarantee you guys haven't even come close to the bullshit that I've put this man through. Not even close. No. I mean, I've put him in situations where he almost didn't come out with his life. And like Rescue 911 type shit.
Literally on multiple occasions.
Occasions. We almost
that's the thing,
take it out.
We've gotten older, so we're kind of in that phase, like, I don't want to have to deal with police, ambulance, or funerals right now.
Exactly.
So let's just go to the show. We can have a couple toddies, have a good time, and then let's go fucking home.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be a little bit more boring than it used to be, but we're all going home, and we're all just gonna, we're gonna be in bed by midnight.
Right. Well, it's only boring when we're not on stage. When we're on stage, that's a totally different animal.
Right.
That's no holds bar.
Let the animal out. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's no doubt, and I absolutely. It's so fun to go to a show when you guys are playing, and then watch you guys go crazy, and then and especially Seth. Coming off stage, and I love bringing somebody who knows Seth, like from work or whatever, to a show, and I'm like, yeah, just watch him,
just wait.
He does his thing, and they're just shocked the entire time, like, who is this person? Who is this animal who's spiking his bass upside down and flipping it around and throwing it in the air, and then he comes off stage, and everybody's just like, oh my God, Seth, and he's like, oh, thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Oh, he's just super humble.
Yeah,
he goes back. He goes right back to Clark Kent.
We have to, man.
Yeah, it's just
like you said.
So fun.
We're hardworking. We don't want to have that ego, because that ego just brings drama and bullshit.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Definitely when Seth started Trawl, like when him and I kind of got to be kind of separate from the other guys, and he started talking to me a little bit about the philosophy of Trawl and what he wanted to do with it. Like I was full force into it because he wanted to make music again, but he didn't want it to be crazy drama, hectic. Like he wanted to bring some positivity to the world. He wanted to bring some, good energy and good vibes back into the world and just make some good music for people. Mm-hmm. So being able to do this with him, it made me feel better that there was somebody who wanted to do that too.
Right.
So, I mean, we keep those egos fully in check, and we know, it's there, right. But it's very like a light buttering of it on our toast.
Like the spritz, I bet you can't believe it's not butter, like spray bottle.
We're just a couple spritzes of that, and then it's the rest of the flavor is just hard work and determination right now.
Well, it's the best. It's the best. The very best musicians that I've ever met in my life are hard work musicians. You guys have so much fun on stage, and you just don't take yourselves too seriously. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely not.
You can tell you have a passion for your music. You guys believe in what you're doing, but you just have fun, and it just comes out in the music, in the songs, and I think that your stuff has gotten a little more. I don't want to say serious, but it's gotten more, you guys are really going for it with some of these tracks that are just amazing. But that's the thing I think that people really gravitate to for you guys in your live performances is that, you write songs about sharks from their perspective, like shit like that, and it's just like,
why not?
This is brilliant. This is brilliant.
We bring Bruce on stage with us. He wrote that song.
Yes. It wasn't us. That's so fun. And like, that's the sort of shit that I think people kind of, that's kind of missing. I think that was one of the things that I kind of missed the boat on with Loki, is that I was always trying to be so serious about the message, and it's about the, and make it so complicated, and it doesn't have to be that. And a lot of times it's not good to just constantly do that, because people want to have fun. People want to have fun. It doesn't always have to be this super fucking heavy thing.
Well, and that's, we are serious, but at the same time, we know what we're doing. I think Seth and I have talked about this before. Like, if this goes somewhere, cool.
Right.
If it doesn't, cool.
Right.
We're still having fun.
Exactly.
Right.
And
we're just having fun with it. And,
being on stage with Seth and getting to look at him and seeing his face, the bass face, it just gets me energized, and I get to play with such great guys, and getting to write music with them is so much fun, because we never know like where a song is going to go, but we know like where songs start.
Right.
And there's definitely some silliness in where they start.
Right.
Like Carcharodon was written because Seth and Tom were trying to figure out a reggae beat, and we started talking about Reggae Shark, which is a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And there it was. Like, I was like, I got lyrics for this. Hold on. And it was just like, it's a friggin' shark.
And that's something that, like, Sean, you've got a great imagination. Like, I can play, funky bass lines and like put together riffs and like string that together, but your imagination with, running with your instinct on, like Ghost Pepper Cantina, when we write about a bar in the underworld where all the ghosts and goblins go to drink and stuff like that.
Get like, party on, baby.
Like, I would have never thought to write a song like that, but you're just like, fuck yeah, we're writing a song about this.
It's like you just made cupcakes for everybody, and then you sprinkle just a little bit of bath salts on top, and then didn't tell anybody.
Shh! Don't tell anyone. That's our secret.
That's the secret ingredient. And you're just like, am I fucked up right now? Like, what's going on?
But that's
here?
the thing.
What just happened?
When they started writing Ghost Pepper Cantina, it just had this very like Spanish, like salsa, like, and I started like dancing like an idiot at practice. Mm-hmm. And like, I could see Seth looking at me like, what are you thinking? And I was like, man, I have got something for this. I just got to figure it out. And then like, I got a recording from Seth, and we started like practicing it more. And I was like, all right, check this out.
Sure.
And then they're like, wait, what the hell are you singing about? I was like, a bar in the underworld where people go and get drunk when they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that's awesome. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
And then
So
we started like further developing it. Like I sent you like an Oingo Boingo song, like Dead Man's
Yeah.
Party, and then like
Well, and that's, you
we
know,
were
yeah.
listening to like the Tim Burton scores that Danny Elfman did, and like just trying to go all in with it. Like, because I think that's the other thing is like if you're gonna do it, go all in with it and just make people believe it. Like this is
Right.
1,000% what we're doing, and
Right.
like, you know.
Right.
Well, and
that's it. I mean, and that's the thing. It's just you guys, you know, you have fun with it, and it's honest, and it's just fun. It's just fun music to kind of get behind. So, you know, like I said, it's just awesome sitting where I'm sitting. You know, I'm realizing that, you know, here I am now, the old fart, like, you know, remembering when. But it's just fun to see, sitting where I'm sitting, to see the work that you've done, Bones and Devil's Night Out, you know, and Seth with, you know, Christ, everything that you've done. But
Thank you, man.
you know, it's just been so fun to kind of be on the outside looking in, and it's really fun to kind of, I guess, enter back into the community a little bit with some stuff that I'm incredibly proud of. And, you know, again, not to take anything away from anything I've done in the past, certainly with Loki, I'm so proud of the work that I did there and the songs that I wrote there. But, you know, I honestly think that some of the stuff that we're writing now, it's some of the very, very best stuff that I've ever done, both lyrically and vocally. And I'm just really, really relieved that I still, I guess, have it, you know, the ability.
Right.
You know, this has been a really hard time for a lot of people, personally, and certainly for myself, and just to have that music, you know, to be able to.
And you do, man. You've absolutely still got it. And I will agree with you that I think these are some of the best songs that you've ever written, and, you know, lyrically.
Thanks, man.
Ability wise, and just, you know, I think honestly, you know, just to talk about your abilities for a minute, like,
yeah, let's get on him for a second here.
You know, your ability to, you know, kind of be cerebral and bring an idea full circle without being very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost call that something like, almost like Maynard does from Tool, where you serve a song in such a way where it's not completely obvious exactly what you're talking about, so anyone could take it for their own interpretation. But at the same time, it definitely has a subject and a flow and a direction where you know what you're singing about, but you're not making it so one-dimensional for whoever's listening, which I think is an art that it's a lost art. I mean, there are a lot of, you know, singers who kind of used to write that way, but like in modern music, you don't get that as often. So I think and you know, your vocal ability is amazing. So like, I've always looked up to that. I've always wanted to be able to sing more and write lyrics like that. And so, you know, I think that was something that made Loki magic for sure.
Well, thanks, man.
You know,
I really appreciate that. You know, for me, when it comes to music, the meaning was always the most important part for me. And but what I learned early on, because I was so stuck on the meaning of things and I wanted people to understand my meaning, but I think it was just based on the way that I would write, people would take it in so many different directions. It was like a choose your own adventure book. And so I kind of learned very early on that you know, people would come up to me and they'd go, "Oh my God, I love that song Downpour. And, you know, when you talk about this and it's about this, and they would go in a direction that, I mean, I wrote that song for my oldest daughter, Christina, who's now 23, because I was a teen dad.
Yes, it's time I sat you down and poured out little love. All I know, it's hard to see the storm wind in the eye. This hard day up is blown, and all our stories are told by the people that we don't know. Can our glories be seen by the one that we love? Born from me, if you fall
and I wrote it for her, but person came up and they went in a completely different direction with it. It had absolutely nothing to do with that. And I was just like stunned at like, wow, that's a really, really cool take on it. And then at the end of it, they were like, is that what it means? And every single time somebody would ask me that about one of my songs, I would go, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it.
But in your head, though, you have like tires screeching and it's a train. And you're like, yeah.
Well, for me, I was like, who am I to take that away from them? You know what I mean? Like that's what they latched onto, and that's where they brought it. And I think that's what's so awesome about music is that it can do that. You know, like I was just saying about April's song. You know, I think a lot of people are going to look into that. You know, the fact that I'm doing a benefit for Nicole, and the fact that, you know, the April we just had, and you know, I actually had to call Nicole, and I was like, I sent her a message. I'm like, I promise you, I didn't write this song about you. Okay, I wrote this in 1998. There's some heavy lyrics in here, but I swear to God, this was something that I wrote a long time ago, because people do that. They take meaning and they go with it, and so I just really wanted. You know, but that's what's so cool about music, and that's what I love about music is that it can be something, you know, really simple and innocent or whatever, and people latch onto it and they take their own meaning and they make it their own. And that's what's so cool about music is that, you know, once you write it and once you put it out there, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It
belongs to the world.
It belongs to everybody.
That's true.
And it lives beyond you, and it lives beyond your intentions and your thoughts and your meaning. It goes beyond that at that point. You just kind of have to. It's like making a paper airplane, and once you throw it, it's gone. That's it. It's on its own, trajectory, and it's flying on its own. And I don't know. That's just something that I've always really liked about music. And so anybody who ever would do that and come up to me with their own meaning, I was just like, yep, that's what it means. Absolutely. Because then I'm thinking in my head to you, but I'm like, yeah, that's really, really special. So, but guys, it was an honor to be on this and a pleasure. And, you know, keep doing your thing, man. It's been a lot of fun, watching you guys, get to where you're at, and don't stop, keep doing it.
Yeah, so thank you again, JT, so much for coming on. Yeah. And thank you all for tuning into TrawlCast. If you like what you hear, we are available on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcast, Outcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. So hit that subscribe button. As soon as an episode drops, it's there and ready and waiting for you to hit that play button. We're also available on YouTube. All you got to do is search for TrawlCast. Once you find us, hit that subscribe button, push that little bell icon, you know, give us some love on there. And, you know, I think we're like 2 hairs short of that magical number. So help us out.
Yeah.
With that.
So once we hit 100 subscribers, we can actually claim our channel and call it, you know, YouTube/Trawl Band instead of a bunch of weird symbols and shit. So that would really help us out to be able to be found by more people. So
if you got some friends who do a lot of YouTube watching, tell them to search for TrawlCast. Tell them to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. They won't be disappointed. We're putting out TrawlCast on there. We are putting any music that we put, you know, out on there, so you can find it all there. If you're able to, rate and review us 5 stars. Tell the people what you think. You know, if you like us, cool. If you don't, cool. We're not sensitive anymore. If you want to send us a voice message, you can do that on the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm/TrawlCast. There's a little word bubble with a plus symbol in it. Hit it, hit record, and we'll put it in the episode if you want. We can do it anonymously if you'd like to. If you do have a question, comment, show suggestion, or want to send a listener segue to us, you can cast a line to trawlband@gmail.com. We check it every day, ladies and gentlemen, so don't be afraid. And for more information about all things Trawl and Trawl related, you can go to www.trawlband.com. Again, thank you, JT, for coming on tonight. We greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We love you so much, man.
Love you too, brother.
Love you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you. My name is Sean Matthews.
I'm Seth McClellan.
And I'm JT.
There he is. And we will see you all next time on TrawlCast.